Good morning, everyone. My topic is all about the bottom billion and migration. Bottom billion is the most popular approach of the examining global economic disparity is to concentrate regarding the distance between the core and periphery, the north and the south, or between the world's developed and underdeveloped regions. Nevertheless, Paul Collier in 2007 forthcoming contains that by drawing such a harsh divide, we fall to as the bottom billion in the world. So ang bottom billion kay mura na siya kanang country nga di hinay o develop sa ilang lugar, just like the Africa, North Korea, Haiti, Bolivia, Laos, and Yemen. The lowest billion earn around a fifth of what the top billion earn wherever they may reside among those who are in. Migration is one effect of inequality. Typically, it comes from the south to the north. That is, people who are able will typically attempt to relocate from impoverished places to better affected regions. Refer to Chapter 8. The irony of this thought is that serve poverty such as the bottom billions, which make it considerably more difficult for people who experience it to relocate to the north. They probably don't have enough money, so they don't have the physical stamina or even the limited resources necessary to move. They also reside in nations without the most basic transportation infrastructure such as roads, railroads, and ships that would enable them to relocate northward, but many others, even those with the lowest billion, are frequently compelled to. So that's all my report, and goodbye.
Sige, bugtingog. Ano?
Good morning, Mama. This is my report. My topic is waste and inequality, global digital divide. And another dimension of inequality in this realm involves waste or electronic waste, AG chapter 9. So, the reason is that developed countries much prefer to chip the hazardous material out of their domains and away from their population. However, the income is very low and those who do that were likely to become ill, at least in the long run. From exposure to dangerous elements and components, the income earned will do little to improve the economic situation in this less developed world, and the negative health effect will only increase the gap between rich and poor countries, at least in terms of health. So, ang example na is kaning mga mobile phone, laptop, phones and laptop and tablet. So, ano siyang example kani like kanang mga kanang mga na gipang gipaglabay na mga phone kanang mga guba na man sa example sa waste and inequality. So next topic is global digital divide. One of the most important contemporary consequences and causes of global inequality is the global digital divide. There is great inequality in the world in terms of access to people's ability to get their hands on the technology and use of. Once people gain access, their ability to operate the technology, the internet, as well of course computers, to say nothing of other digital technologies. The main barriers to global equality in the internet access and use are the lack of infrastructure within less developed countries and the law comes in those areas. So, example ani is like kanang mga cellphone, mga laptop, kanang, di ba, importante sa sa tuwa kanang mga cellphone o laptop kay wala ni mga device is dili ta maka kuan like kanang makatabang, kanang communicate sa ato ang mga pamilya nga nasa layo. Ug maoro pud to.
Hi everyone. So we're going to tackle for today is about race and ethnicity and gender. So race and ethnicity are not objective characteristics based solely on physical appearance, but rather social constructs that vary over time and across different locations. These statuses are products of social definitions, including those of semi-objective traits such as skin color. Therefore, race and ethnicity differ due to the variation in this definition. The argument that social definitions have real consequence, classic one in social theory. This means that incorrect social definitions can have powerful effects. For instance, if a white person is defined as black or vice versa, it can have a profound impact on their lives regardless of objective reality. Race and ethnicity are not intrinsic qualities but rather socially defined and fluid categories. The basis for this definition varies, but it does not determine whether someone is considered a member of a particular group. Therefore, skin color does not determine whether someone is black or white. It depends on how they are defined by others or how they define themselves. The same applies to ethnic groups, where self-definition and the definitions of others play a role in determining membership. The distinction between race and ethnicity is not always clear, as races are sometimes considered ethnic groups and vice versa. However, the main difference is that race is defined by physical or biological characteristics, while ethnicity is defined by cultural characteristics. In the American context, whites, black Americans, Indians, Asian and Pacific Islanders, and Hispanics are usually considered races based on physical characteristics, while Italians, Jews, Poles, and white Anglo-Saxon Protestants are considered ethnic groups based on cultural characteristics. Race and ethnicity are social constructions that have been used to justify ideas of racial superiority and inferiority. The concept of race emerged during the Enlightenment as an ideological concept to refer to inherent biological differences between human groups. In the past, ideas about race were supplemented with science to justify an equal distribution of wealth, power, prestige, access to resources, and life chances. Today's racism is more based on social and cultural factors such as religion, language, and national origin. While there may be some overlap between race and ethnicity in terms of how they are defined or perceived in society, the main difference lies in whether they are defined by physical or cultural characteristics. Both concepts have been used historically to justify inequality and discrimination based on perceived difference between human groups. So race can be defined on the basis of real or perceived physical, biological, or phenotypical characteristics, while the ethnic group is a social group defined on the basis of some cultural characteristics. In the 20th century, the concept of race shifted from biological superiority to cultural superiority. Racism is now more about hegemony than physical domination, with one race subordinating another based on dominant ideas and unconsciousness acceptance of those ideas. The emphasis on cultural and understanding race has led to it resembling ethnicity, as cultural characteristics are often associated with racial groups and cultural discrimination is central to racial discrimination. This makes it difficult to differentiate between racism and ethnicism. Racism and ethnicism are forms of social discrimination that define the other as inherently different and inferior to the dominant group in society. Racism is a belief in the inherent superiority of one racial group over others, while ethnicism is a belief in the inherent superiority of one ethnic group over others. Both forms of discrimination often result in minorities being seen as subhuman and denied human qualities, justifying actions taken against them. Xenophobia, which involves rejecting, including, and vilifying outsiders or foreigners to the dominant social group, is often accompanied by racism and ethnicism and can lead to violence. One important similarity between racial and ethnic groups is the relationship to the majority-minority issue. Some groups tend to be minorities in many societies around the world, while others tend to be in the majority. The white-black distinction is clearest in this regard, with whites disproportionately in the majority and black disproportionately in the minority within many societies. At a global level, whites are disproportionately in the dominant North while blacks are primarily in the South. Globalization has led to a racialization of the world according to Winnan in 2004. Racism, ethnicism, and xenophobia manifest themselves in various forms such as murder, physical attacks, hate speech, denial of entry to the stars, restaurants, clubs, and denial of access to employment. The racial disparities between the global North and South have always been present in the nature of globalization, while most work on race and ethnicity has focused on particular nation states. The U.S. has a unique history of both race and ethnicity due to slavery and massive immigration. Other societies, such as South Africa and Brazil, have also been in the forefront of discussion of race. However, from the perspective of globalization, it is more important to focus on global flows and barriers, including the flow of people from various racial and ethnic groups, as well as ideas such as racism, pluralism, or resistance. The issue of ethnicity relates to a sense of who one is and offers a sense of collectivities to which one belongs. Pluralism. The idea and fact that different races and ethnic groups can live together can coexist, while genocide is acts committed with the intent to destroy a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. And also there are also ethnic cleansing. It is forcibly removing people of another ethnic group. That was all from race and ethnicity. Now let's proceed to the gender. So gender. Turning to gender and its relationship to social definitions, we need to distinguish gender conceptually from sex. So, sex. Sex refers to the physical differences between males and females, although social definitions are involved here as well, while gender is a matter of social definition and social distinction. Also, like race and ethnicity, gender involves more than simply making distinctions. Gender distinctions are used to organize the social world and to affect, often adversely, women. These distinctions are made even though there are great similarities between men and women and great variation exists within both. Now, let's proceed in the gender and the economy. So gender is an important factor in the economy as it affects the labor market, income distribution, and economic development. Historically, women have been excluded from the formal economy and have been relegated to unpaid work in the household and care sectors. As a result, women tend to have lower levels of education, fewer opportunities for career advancement, and lower wages compared to men. However, studies have shown that increasing women's participation in the labor force can have positive effects on economic growth and development. Women's participation in the workforce can increase productivity, boost economic growth, and reduce poverty. Inequality also has a significant impact on the economy. Research has shown that gender-based discrimination can lead to economic inefficiencies and lower economic growth. Gender inequality also affects access to credit and other financial services, which can limit women's ability to start and grow businesses. Feminization of labor is increasing participation of women in the formal and informal global paid labor force, while expert processing zone is an independent area controlled by corporation and free of natural control. Gender and the economy are closely intertwined, and addressing gender inequality is crucial for promoting economic growth and development. Now, let's proceed in the global care chains. So, global care chains refers to the phenomenon of the international migration of care workers, typically women, who leave their home countries to work in the care sector in other countries. This migration has been driven by a global demand for care services, particularly in wealthy countries where the aging population and the rise of dual-income households have created a need for care workers. Global care chains are characterized by the movement of care workers across national borders, often leaving behind their families and communities to work in a foreign country. This migration can have both positive and negative effects on the individuals involved as well as on the countries they live and the countries they go to. On the positive side, global care chains can provide opportunities for care workers to earn higher wages and improve their economic status. It can also provide a source of remittances for their families and communities back home. There are also negative consequences associated with global care chains. The migration of care workers often results in a shortage of care workers in their home countries, particularly in developing countries where care worker is undervalued and underpaid. This can lead to a burden on the families and communities left behind, particularly on women who are often forced to take on additional care responsibility. The working conditions of care workers in host countries can be exploitative, with long hours, low pay, and limited legal protections. This can result in poor working conditions and limited job security, putting care workers at risk of exploitation and abuse. Global care change are a complex phenomenon with both positive and negative effects. Addressing the challenges associated with global care change requires a comprehensive approach that addresses the needs of care workers, their families, and communities in both sending and receiving countries. Now let's proceed to the trafficking in the sex industry. Trafficking in the sex industry. Trafficking in the sex industry refers to the illegal recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of people for the purpose of sexual exploitation. It is a form of modern day slavery and a violation of human rights. The sex industry refers to any industry that provides services related to sexual activity, such as prostitution, pornography, and strip clubs. Trafficking in the sex industry is a global problem that affects women, men, and children of all ages, nationalities, and backgrounds. Traffickers use various methods to control and exploit their victims, including physical and emotional abuse, deep bondage, and deception. Victims of trafficking in the sex industry are often forced to work in unsafe and unhealthy environments where they are at risk of violence, sexually transmitted infections, and other health problems. Trafficking in the sex industry is often linked to other forms of organized crime, such as drug trafficking and money laundering. It is a lucrative business, with traffickers making huge profits from the exploitation of their victims. Efforts to combat trafficking in the sex industry require a comprehensive approach that addresses the root causes of the problem, such as poverty, gender inequality, and discrimination. This includes addressing demand for commercial sex, improving law, enforcement and legal frameworks, and providing support and services for victims of trafficking. It also requires addressing the stigma and social marginalization faced by those who have been trafficked or work in the sex industry and empowering them to access their rights and make their own choices. So now let's proceed with the mail order brides. Mail order brides refer to a phenomenon where individuals use online dating or marriage agencies to find a spouse from a foreign country. In this case, the individual seeking a spouse would typically pay a fee to the agency or website, which would then connect them with potential partners. Mail order brides are often associated with the exploitation of women, particularly from poorer countries who are seeking economic opportunities or a way out of difficult situations. Some agencies or websites may engage in unethical practices such as charging exorbitant fees or misrepresenting the individuals they are connecting with. There are some cases where mail order marriages may be successful and result in a happy partnership. There are also concerns around the potential for exploitation and abuse. It is important to recognize that marriage is a complex and personal decision, and individuals should be able to make their own choices about who they marry and under what circumstances. The term mail order brides is often used in a negative context. and is associated with various ethical and legal concerns. It is important to approach this issue with sensitivity and to recognize the complex factors that may contribute to the phenomenon. Let's proceed in responding to and resisting global minority status in the case of women. So women have been subject to global minority status where they are marginalized and oppressed due to their gender. This status can manifest in various forms of discrimination such as unequal pay, limited access to education and healthcare, and restricted political and economic opportunities. However, women have also been active in responding to and resisting this global minority status. Women's movements around the world have fought for gender equality and women's rights, advocating for changes in laws, policies, and social norms. These movements have been successful in achieving significant progress towards gender equality, including increased representation of women in political and economic spheres, and the implementation of laws that protect women's rights. Women have also been active in creating their own spaces and networks for support and empowerment. These networks provide women with opportunities to share experiences, gain skills and knowledge, and advocate for their rights. Women's movements have also been successful in creating cultural and social change, challenging gender stereotypes and traditional gender roles. However, the fight for gender equality is an ongoing struggle, and women continue to face challenges and obstacles in their efforts to resist global minority status. Women still face discrimination and violence, and their rights are often violated. There is a need for continuing advocacy and action to address their issues and promote gender equality. Responding to and resisting global minority status requires a comprehensive approach that addresses the root causes of gender inequality and discrimination.
Good morning everyone, this is my report on rural and urban inequality. So before that, I discuss you what is rural and urban inequality. So the rural is a geographic area that is located outside towns and cities. And also typical rural areas have a low population density and small settlements. And also agricultural areas and areas with forestry typically are described as rural. So let's proceed to the urban. The urban is a human settlement with a high population density and infrastructure of built environment. So and also the urban areas created through urbanization and are categorized by urban morphology as cities, towns, conurbations, or suburbs. So let's proceed to the rural agricultural areas. So let's proceed to the north. More frequently implicated and affected by globalization, although the impact is in many ways more negative than positive. So let's go to the south, and the south has played central role in global relationships, especially in global agriculture. So for example, in the south, so the British outsourced agricultural production to the South India during the height of the rainfall. So the relations of agricultural production. So they have a global agribusiness and factory farm. So what is global agribusiness? So, global agribusiness is business related for farming and farming related commercial activities. And also factory farm is also known as concentrated animal feeding operation. CAFOs are a modern industrial method of raising farm animals, also are collectively known in industry parlance as livestock. So in short, ito yung factory farm na nandiyan mga alagang hayop na ibibenta, like yung mga magbenta ng itlog at manok. So comparative advantage. So what is law of comparative advantage? Comparative advantage, the ability of an economy to produce a given good, service in a more efficient and economically competitive manner than its peer. So example that is the and also the South produce what are for it non-traditional products. Example, flowers, fruit, vegetable, shrimp, for which it comes to have a comparative advantage and exports those products to the north. Let's proceed to the US style consumption. Pattern and taste of food lead to global convergence in a diet. Example that is narrowing base of staple grains, increased consumption of animal protein, edible oils, and sugar, and also decline in dietary fiber. So let's proceed to the supermarket revolution. It has obviously centralized food processing and retailing, but it has also exerted increasing control over farmers, ranchers, and so on, effects of the changes in the south. So changes in the south lead to change from poverty, hunger, admits, scarcity to poverty, hunger, admits, and abundance. So rural economics everywhere are in depression and crisis. With low prices, declining public supports rural exodus and increase in rural suicides and so on, the rural south has been forced to open its farm sectors to the global market, while the north retires huge farm subsidies and trade barriers. So urban cities seen as cosmopolitan, big 2007 162 to 76, and therefore inherently global because they encompass a range of cultures, urban cities seen as cosmopolitan, big 2007 162 to 76, and therefore inherently global because they encompass a range of cultures, ethnicities, languages, and consumer products. So the global city in New York, London, Tokyo. So countries mentioned are the key locations for leading industries and marketplaces. So the centers of the production and creation of innovative, cutting-edge financial service, the homes of new financial, legal, and accountancy products, and also the setting from which business and organization exercise global command and control. So urban hierarchy. Global world cities can be seen as key hoods in a variety of networks and flows. So these are examples of ranking. Village to small towns and also large towns, small cities, large cities, major cities, and also world cities. And that's all. Thank you.